2 years ago, the average price of an American home was $215,000. Today, 2 years later, it's $400,000. And the interest rates during that same period have gone from 1% to 7%. So that home is going to cost him 10 times what it would cost somebody 2 years ago. And most people don't have a prayer, most young people don't have a prayer of doing that. We all know kids that age who are living with their parents. We all know people, or most of us know people, who were about to buy a home. They were ready to do it, and at the last moment, somebody comes in with a cash offer and scoops it out from under them. We've all heard those stories. Why is that happening? BlackRock. There's three companies: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And those three companies, which all own each other, so it's really one huge behemoth, also own 88% of the S&P 500. And now they have a new target, which is to gain ownership of all the single-family residences in this country. And they are on a trajectory to do that. If they continue on this trajectory, by 2020, they will own 60% of the homes in American corporations. And so when you see those people, that entities sweep in and take that home away because they made a cash offer, it's usually an LLC with some kind of ambiguous name. But the ultimate owner, if you trace them back, usually goes back to one of those three companies.
RFK Jr. exposes BlackRock's plan to gain ownership of all single-family residences in the nation. He said 2020 there. I think he meant 2030. That's the goal date of the WEF for when you will own nothing and be happy. And the concern here is that you'll own nothing precisely because there'll be nothing to own, not after these corporate conglomerates swoop down and gobble everything up. And the reason why the government is doing absolutely nothing about this is because they're in cahoots with it. We now know, thanks to James O'Keefe's bombshell hidden video exposing the inner workings of BlackRock, we now know that according to this employee caught on hidden camera, you could basically buy a politician for as little as $10,000. That's what BlackRock does. Politicians will do whatever they want for basically $10K. Moreover, this guy revealed that one of the primary ways BlackRock buys off politicians is through insider trading information. This was particularly revealing here. There's a little known trading secret among the experts, the insiders, that you always track what corporate CEOs are doing with their own company's stock. So if they're buying up a bunch of their own company's stock, that must mean that they just had a board meeting that produced numbers for an amazing sales quarter, so their stock is going to absolutely surge as soon as those numbers are reported. So all the CEOs are doing are positioning themselves to profit from that surge. But it works the other way as well. If you see these CEOs dumping their company's stock, then you know they had a bad quarter, and they're bailing out before their stocks tank once word gets out. So what this guy revealed on hidden camera is that BlackRock gives that kind of information to politicians before the sales reports are publicly announced so they can buy or sell accordingly. And by the way, you may not know this, but you and I actually have access to that very same inside information. Thanks to a little-known SEC database, guess what? We can see what and when these CEOs are buying as well. Not only do we get to see it in real time, but we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves. Gang, that's why you have got to click on the link below and sign up for a free training with my good friend Ross Givens. It's this Thursday, August 31st at 3 p.m. Eastern. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. It's going to be an amazing free training where you and I can learn how to trade with the exact same insider knowledge as these politicians, but legally and ethically. So don't wait. Seating and registration is limited. So click on that link below right now and register today, and I'll see you for an event that promises to change your life. So we learn these things, but one thing That's particularly terrifying, as Bobby Kennedy alluded to there, is the way BlackRock is basically engaged in a project of what scholars call re-feudalization or neo-feudalism, where they're increasingly buying up all the utilities like they did in Maui and single-family residences so that we no longer have access to private property, which in effect turns us all into serfs. Here again is Robert Kennedy Jr. on this terrifying trend and what we can do to push back against it.
There's a lot of things that we ought to be doing about that. We ought to be using the tax code so that they can't make a killing taking all the homes and then driving up the rents. And you know, there's other things that we can be doing and making mortgages available, 3% mortgages to Americans with federal guarantees. None of that is happening. And nobody's even talking about what's really going on in this country, which is this corrupt collusion between state and corporate power that is strip mining the wealth from the American middle class and destroying the lives of the working poor in this country, where you do not have a chance anymore. The whole system is rigged against you. And those corporations, because of government collusion with these rich men north of Richmond, have their boots on the neck of every American. And, you know, all these guys can talk about is what China's going to do to us and Russia, and make up these bogeymen to keep the military-industrial complex in the cash. But what about what's really happening in this country, which is, the wealth is being stolen by corporations with the cooperation of these government agencies. And we need to start actually talking about the real issue, and it's not happening.
I love the Oliver Anthony reference there. Wonderful. But again, the key here is that what a lot of people don't understand about BlackRock is they're spearheading an effort to re-feudalize society. They're actively attempting to restructure our society in a manner that increasingly reflects the kind of social structure that characterized the feudal Middle Ages, and in effect turn us all into serfs who rent. I mean, that's the key. We don't own, we rent from a centralized oligarchy. We'll own nothing and be happy. For example, today, like in the Middle Ages, you've got an astonishing concentration of wealth and power, where very few people control pretty much everything. 5 years ago, about 400 billionaires owned half the world's assets. Today, that number's dropped to just 100 billionaires. So you had this tremendous concentration of wealth and power, where bureaucrats and billionaires are teaming up to create a top-down governance structure that keeps them in power in perpetuity. So that's why Barney Frank and Paul Eddie Munster Ryan all sit on corporate boards after they're done in D.C. The corporate lobbyists write the bills that they pass as politicians, so when they're done in D.C., they go and sit on these corporate boards for their reward, often to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? Hunter Biden, anyone? This is that characteristic revolving door between billionaires and bureaucrats that's in effect restructuring society in re-feudalistic terms. Now, the good news in all of this is that BlackRock is more and more being exposed. And of course, it's not just BlackRock, but they happen to be the biggest. Now we're getting word that BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is indeed backpedaling on enforcing what's called ESG and DEI initiatives, which are just more woke nonsense. They do look like they're coming crashing down here because there's just such a massive backlash against all of that. So they're not by any means invincible, but it is going to require all of us to stand up and stand against these very pernicious and nefarious efforts to consign us all to permanent serfdom. Don't forget, click on that link below for a special free training on insider trading with my good friend Ross Givens. Don't wait. There are only a limited number of seats, and it's almost all completely booked. So click on that link below and reserve your seat for a day that promises to change your life. God bless. Are you ready to join the resistance? Because I'm leading a group of dedicated, courageous patriots who can lead a spearhead into the heart of the secular globalist establishment. We punished Bud Light and Target, driven CNN and the legacy media to near bankruptcy, forced BlackRock to backtrack on ESG, and now we're seeing our conservative-dominated Supreme Court ending affirmative action and protecting religious liberty. In my Insiders Club, I show you concrete steps to take locally and online that will only keep this mass uprising going until the battle is won. Don't wait. Click the link in my description below and join my Courageous Patriots Insiders Club today.